Hi Ty.
Hi George.
We haven't done this kind of video in here. Have we ever done that? We've always done it at your place.
We've had one, I think, chatting here between us, but yeah, I don't remember when.
But welcome to this video with Ty Streetman, author of the forthcoming Aquatic Habitats book.
Thank you.
And myself, George. This is my gallery space featuring my Oase Highline 400 and this brand new scape in an Oase Scapeline 60. Ty, what have we been doing today?
We took down a scape and we created a scape. And
I've got the time lapse of us.
Oh yeah, we can show that.
Show that right now.
So we had the Florida flagfish display, and now we've created. Hello, Betty.
Hello, Betty. You coming up? It's okay. It's all part of the authentic, organic vlogs. There we go. There we go. Can you say hello to everyone? This is Betty. Betty is coming up 18 months old now.
Yeah.
She's very little compared to
small,
Tommy.
yeah.
So she's on the smaller side of miniature schnauzers, and Tommy's on the bigger, and he's a male as well.
He's need a medium one now.
Yeah, he's nearly standard size.
Emma will have that. You turn up with another one.
Yeah, I'd like, the more the merrier.
Well, I haven't got any dogs in my life at the moment, but I come over and get my dog fix here. So
yeah, and they do make themselves known to you, don't they, when you do come here?
Yes, they know me, but they like to bark.
So, sorry, back to the aquatic stuff.
So we've actually gone ahead and created this New Guinea biotope for threadfin rainbow fish, Iria thurina werneri, and we've based this entirely on a photo in Blair's Biotopes book, which I showed you earlier. Yeah. And we have set this up in a day, but we've done various ways of doing that ethically. Yes. So we were using the mature filter media from the previous display, and we've actually used the water from this tank to fill it up, and these fish were acclimatized in the water from this tank before they were moved over into here. So essentially they're in the same water, they've got mature filters, the temperature is all right for them. We released them, what, 20 minutes ago?
Yeah,
and they're out, they're foraging. Yeah. And
just to say, we turned the CO2 off. There's no CO2 in this water either. So that's an important point when you're putting new fish in an aquascape. Try not to have any CO2 present if possible, or a minimal CO2.
Yeah. Yeah. So should I talk about this?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
So we saw these photos in Heiko's book, and one of them showed a sort of Pagestimon species in a jungle river in New Guinea, where he found the threadfin rainbows. He wasn't able to identify it, but it looked quite similar to Pagestimon quadrifolius, also known as Pagestimon octopus, which I had, and I thought, hey, we can use that. So that's our sort of bulk plant. It grows really fast. It's brilliant for sucking up nutrients, and under higher lighting, gets a lovely pink purple on the threads. I actually had a little bit. It wasn't thriving. I gave it to our friend, Ian Watson, airline pilot, carpenter, tech guru. Yeah, the guy can do anything. And then he called me up a little while later, was like, I've got some cuttings of that Pagestimon because it's growing like a weed. And he sent them back to me. So I've got all these great big cuttings to use. So thanks to Ian. There was another photo in the book which showed Java fern growing over a gravelly riverbed. Kind of between. I'll overlay these. Yeah.
Before you go, make sure.
I'll send you the photos. Yeah. Growing between pebbles and gravel with sand. So we kind of combined the two and made this display. We've got lianas, jungle vines, which are actually from Scaped Nature, to suggest, vines hanging into the water from the forest around. We've got this philodendron that George has added, again to suggest the presence of the jungle. And our Java fern came from Aquarium Gardens, they're tropical Java ferns, so thank you to Dave. And we've got some leaf litter. These are guava leaves from Ely Exotics. We've got the Wio elderly gravel and the Wio canyon sand for our substrates. And then in the back, we've got some Tropica plant soil to provide nutrients for the Pagestimon.
Oase scape soil.
Edit that. We've got the fish actually from two shops, both Maidenhead Aquatics. One is Maidenhead Aquatics Summerhill, one is Maidenhead Aquatics Scottsdales. Summerhill had quite a lot, and I got some. And then the other day in Scottsdales, I saw they had some males that were really nicely coloured up already.
They look amazing.
Even though they're small, and I said, can we borrow some of them? So we've got some of them, and we've got a piece of driftwood in here, or sort of, no, not driftwood, what is it? Some kind of wood. It's also from Aquarium Gardens. It has appeared in many of the scapes for the Aquatic Habitats book. I think that's all the components. We've got the Aquario pipework, we've got the Weo Slimline WRGB light. It's filtered by a Wazi's Biomaster Thermo 650, is it?
No, 600.
600, sorry.
So it's over-filtered.
Heavily over-filtered.
But I have reduced the regular 16-22mm pipework to the 12mm.
Okay.
So we can, it's just more discreet, and I think it looks nicer.
And it's really nice with this pipework, actually.
No CO2 yet, but we do have the option to fit CO2 if we want to. Do you think we should?
I would,
yeah.
Because although this plant grows very fast, I think the Java ferns, you know, when they adapt to submersed state, they can suffer a bit. So it's good to have some CO2 in there just to... Yeah. I mean, you know better than me, right?
Yeah, well, I actually do plan on doing a full tutorial CO2 installation video, so that makes perfect sense to do that as part of this process.
We've got a light ground panel on here from the light ground, and we haven't put any coloured foil on it. And the reason I decided that was because I knew we were going to do a tannin stain display, and I had thought, oh, I could put a green foil or an orange foil to suggest, you know, the jungle stream. But I thought, well, with the tannin, it's going to have that nice sort of tea effect, and the silhouettes of the fish will pop much more if you don't put a coloured gradient on the back. So now when you look at it, even from a distance, you see them there, and you don't lose any of their colour. And
they're colouring up. The males have got like a red fork on their tails.
So those were the males from Scottsdales, and I said to Max, can I have 8 of them to add, please? Normally what you'd want with these fish is to have, say, 2 females per male. The males normally focus their attention on each other, but they sometimes can be quite insistent with the females. Right. So it's good to just have more females so that the interest is dispersed. Okay. So yeah, that's...
And if you don't mind, Ty, I'll get some close-up footage of this to overlay this video. I'm really impressed with how they've come out so quickly.
And this tank's actually quite important because it is the very, 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 very last, no more tank for the book that we've set up. Because I have mentioned before, I've been trying to do a Threadfin Rainbow tank for about 18 months, and they just disappeared from UK shops, couldn't get hold of them. And suddenly, my friend James Sampson said, hey, you still after them? Yes. So I said to George, you know that empty tank in your house? Can we use that? Yeah. So here we are. So this is the last one. I'm already in the process of writing the book, but it's nice that we can add this one in. Yeah,
I'm really grateful to be part of the process, have actually one of the scapes in the book here at home, and yeah, it's actually really unique for me to have this style of aquascape. I've never actually had philodendron growing out of the top of a tank. I know it's quite a popular technique these days for nutrient export, and it adds that, you know, outside nature coming in. Never grown this Pogostemon octopus, I'll call it, the common name. Interesting use of the Java ferns. Excuse Betty barking, there's probably a pigeon in the garden. The Java ferns are actually attached to large pebbles amongst the substrates. That's a different technique. Normally we see it more higher up in the water column, attached to rocks and wood. Leaf litter, of course, graded gravels, and the whole kind of triangular effect, you know, triangular composition. We can view it from where my dining room table is just here. So when we're sitting eating dinner, we're spoilt by this view here. Yeah. And then we've got this beautiful natural scape here as well.
And when we were laying it out, I said to George what I wanted to create was this quite dense planted area on one side, and then an area of open substrate with an open background as a stage where our thread fins will be, because when the males display, they're probably, I would say, some of the most beautiful fish in the hobby. They're incredibly beautiful.
I can see them already colouring up. They're colouring up literally in front of our eyes.
They're gorgeous, and the fins on them are stunning. So if you have a little arena where the males can display to each other, do these little spiral dances around each other, and then have an area of vegetation where females can hang out, less dominant males can go and, you know, retreat if they're being persecuted by dominant males. That's the way to do it, and you could do that in a sort of a central arena, or you could do it like we've had, where we've got this kind of stage off to the left, and as you can see, they're cruising around in the open water. They've got cover if they need it, and I think they look great.
I do. I'm really impressed. I'm really happy that they're swimming around happily already. Is there any likelihood that they'll jump? I think some viewers will be worried that they're going to jump.
So they can jump.
Okay.
They're one of those fish that annoyingly does sometimes jump. I've found that, yeah, keeping the water level slightly lower and also ensuring that there's plants and cover above reduces that risk. One handy little thing you can do is if you cut some rigid, clear perspex into little triangles. Ian Sutherland taught me this.
Yeah.
And you just put them on the corners.
Because that's where they tend to jump from.
Yeah, when they're startled, they race along the glass, hit a corner, and then go up, and then they launch. So if you just have a little thing there to stop them, that prevents it. But, you know, 8 times out of 10, they don't jump.
Well, when I come down in the morning,
yeah,
I'll do a little head count.
Check, yeah.
I kept scissor tail rasboras.
They launched,
and Tommy was very happy about that because he had a little snack, an expensive snack.
There are some, so they love to fly. The Siamese flying fox.
And they fly jumpers as well.
They're notorious, which is, you know, a shame because they're great algae cleaners. They get really good size, and then they decide to launch out the top.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, I love the use of the philodendron. There's a whole range of kind of jungle plants you could use, different house plants, and as you mentioned, it helps filter the water. Plant will thrive. It looks really good. You eventually have like a dense kind of tangled root network in there as well, which provides cover. So yeah, this is an achievable scape for people because it's relatively small. We've used quite a lot of high-end equipment, high-end lighting, high-end filters, high-end tank. You could do this on a really low budget. You know, you've got some Java ferns, some fast-growing Pegestemon.
Yeah, leaf litter.
A little bit of soil.
I mean, you can even get leaf litter, like oak leaves,
beech
leaves, copper beech leaves. You can pre-soak and get your tannin extract from that as well.
Your biggest expense would be the fish, and they are well worth it because once they colour up, they are stunning.
I don't really want to get rid of this scape. Can we keep it running for the long term? This
sure.
is the last one, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can talk to Max at Scottsdales and James at Summerhill and say, look, these fish can.
How much are they retail? These fish?
At the moment, anything between £3.50 and I've seen them up to £7 in some places.
So £3.50, £7, Great British pounds. That's $5 to $10 US each.
This is the thing. Like I spoke to Nick over at Maidenhead Huntingdon.
Yeah.
And he said he just couldn't get hold of them. They were not on the list. They were not available. And then prices go up, and then suddenly they flood the market. Price goes down. But as they mature, the colours are stunning.
Get the blueberry tetras trying to eat that root. Must be hungry. Let's go and feed them a sec. What do you think to this scape, Ty?
Oh, it's crap. I love it. Well, you know I love it. Anything that's got Echinodorus in.
Well, you're a big influence on this scape in many ways. The fish, the plant selection.
I'm very happy to see the fish that we chose together doing so well, and I love that you included these lampites because you were talking about.
I wanted something for upper level. Yeah.
And just the little blue of their eyes just is exactly what this tank needed. And they're active. You know, they're living the dream in here.
Yeah. They're just recognising the food. They're a bit weird. They're like, they know you're there, so they're not as active at feeding. They're a bit camera shy.
My hatchets are just hanging out here.
Yeah.
They're feeding. That's the first. I told you that's the first species I ever collected in the wild.
Was it? I didn't know
Marbled
that.
hatchet fish.
I didn't know that.
Carnegie striata in Colombia in the Amazon.
Wow.
When I went out there, and I met Steve McAleer, who was a fish exporter living there at the time.
Okay.
But I didn't know that. I knew him only because he owned the little bed and breakfast where I was staying.
Oh wow.
And then he was like, oh yeah, I export fish. Do you want to come and do a collection with me and my staff?
Yeah.
In the streams. And I was like, yes. This was 2010, so I was kind of, you know, I knew I was keeping fish and I was owning fish.
So you were living in Brazil?
I was in Colombia.
Colombia.
And I went down to the Amazon. I went to Leticia.
Okay.
And Steve took me out and we collected marbled hatchets, banjo catfish, iguanodectes tetras, pistogramma, different pencil fish, some killies, all sorts of stuff, in like 2 meters of stream, just leaf litter, in one go in the net and picking through it. Wow. And I was like, I need to find a career that lets me do this.
Yeah.
And kind of did in some ways. And yeah, so they've got a very special place in my heart.
Are they fully grown yet?
I would say, yeah, there's one back here and one up here that are probably adult size.
The only disadvantage, sorry to interrupt, is because of the design of the aquarium and the rim, you don't actually get to see them unless you're sat down here. When you're walking past, you don't actually get to see them at all. And they're notorious jumpers, aren't they?
They are. Without a cover glass, you cannot keep them.
Yeah. And the good thing about the Highline design is that actually there is no way that anything can escape from there. There's not even holes for pipes or anything because of the dry weir.
One thing to note with the marbled hatchetfish, when they travel really, really badly, and they're almost always wild caught.
Yeah.
So when they come into shops, if you do buy them, you can ask to see them feed first.
Okay.
And maybe you see them in the shop, go back a week later, keep an eye on them because they almost always get white spot after being transported, and they often don't want to feed.
Right.
So these came from
Maidenhead Aquatics Huntington.
Yeah,
so
they've
shout
been
out
in
to
a while.
Nick. Yeah, he's a real
and he looks
genuine
after his fish.
keeper. He's a real into their welfare.
So you want to make sure that they're settled and feeding before you take them home.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you may set yourself up for disappointment. They don't do well with treatments either. So
Just a heads up, this Aquascape is featured in a forthcoming issue of Practical Fish Keeping.
Yeah.
So you can learn all about the history of it. I had really good fun taking. You saw the photos.
They're amazing photos.
Yeah,
the rest of us who write for the magazine now we're gonna have to up our game because there's these incredible photos. Like, oh god.
Yeah. I'll put one photo just to show you the kind. I'll put a photo of the hatchetfish up actually because I'm particularly proud of that one. But I think the lampies are my favourites. You know.
They're really, and they're another fish that can unfortunately jump. Otherwise, I would have them in my open top tank.
Yeah.
But when I worked at London Zoo, we had a really big blackwater display, African blackwater display.
Yeah.
It was only about 1 metre across, but it was like 3 metres back to front.
Wow.
It was really weird. And we had elephant nose fish in there.
Yeah.
And it was just leaf litter and branches and really dark, and only like the front kind of half was lit. And there were like 1 billion lampies in there. You couldn't see the fish, all you could see were these little blue lights.
Yeah.
And I used to just go and stand in front of that blackwater tank. Wow. And they were always so active and they were breeding, and it's just really nice to see them here thriving as well, and feeding.
Yeah, they're very active, and I got this really beautiful photo of a male and a female interacting just in front of the Anubias.
Nice.
So African fish, African plant. The composition was just really lucky shot to be fair, but I loved it. In fact, I will overlay that one because it's not going to go in the magazine because I've already sent all the photos off.
We've done a nice display for lampies for the Aquatic Habitats book, and Russell Brian Tate, who is an ecologist in Africa, he was that kind of man on the ground for them. Okay. And he's sent us photos of the habitat and told us where he finds them, and that's awesome. So that'll be in the chapter. Yeah.
What's your favourite fish in there then? Would you say the blueberry tetras? That was completely your influence to get those.
Yeah. You know what's happened, I've fallen for the lampies. And it's hard. I have a really, as I said, a really soft spot for hatchets. Yeah. But I think in this display, the lampies work really well. Yeah. The blueberries are stunning fish. You've kept them really well. They look wonderful. I love the Bolivian orange lemon.
Yeah, they're really interesting. And there's a couple of them. Is it the caudal fin, the bottom fin?
Yeah, bright orange.
It's almost like a fluorescent orange. So I have a couple of them. You see the big chunky ones?
Yeah.
This one here. Here, mate.
Yeah.
Look how orange it is.
So do you know why?
Is that like a breeding thing?
The males, they want to show off a large caudal fin because Hyphosabricon, the genus, they've got a tiny, minuscule hook on the caudal fin, which is what they use to secure the female when they're breeding. Interesting. So it's kind of like walking around with your legs as wide apart as you can and being like, check me out. Yeah. Look at the size of my caudal. If my caudal fin's big, just think about my hook. Interesting. And so it's all the Hyphosabricon genus have got that.
And a lot of these are there's lemon tetra, the orange, the blueberry. They're all Hyphosabricon.
Yes.
And the bentosai.
Yes.
As well, Hyphosabricon. And they all seem to sort of swim around the bottom third, which is why I was keen to have the hatchets and the lampies, So I was told that they're not actually Norman's lampies, they're a different species.
There's one in there that doesn't make me think it's Norman's, it makes me think it's a...
Is it the big male?
Yeah, and I had them, and I can't now remember the name.
Is that a different species to the others, do you think? This one here?
With the slight yellowing in the
Can you see him here?
Yeah. And I don't trust myself with trying to remember the common or the Latin name. No. We can look it up again. I think the thing I love about the composition of this is the way you've put the swords together like that, and the height and the that makes me feel like I'm back in some of the aquatic habitats I've explored, particularly with Echinodorus and Atelia brasiliensis, has a similar shape, goes a similar colour under the sun, and it's really dense with these long, kind of 1.5 inch thick leaves, sorry. And you're kind of gliding through and you can feel like the textures of the plants moving over your skin, and fish kind of dart out and then go down into the stems, and down in the deep it's kind of this dark gloomy around the base of the stems, and then up where the sun hits them they've got this beautiful red and pink on them, and just seeing that stand of that just reminds me of being in that kind of habitat.
That's awesome. Well, they do say nature is their best teacher.
What is it that Armano says? Learn from nature,
yeah,
create
learn
nature.
From nature, create nature. I've actually got it on a keyring.
Solid
Stainless steel block, and it's got that stenciled on it.
I finally got a ADA solar RGB lamp, and I opened it up the night before last, and it has the lid within the box is a cardboard sheet, and it says learn from nature, create nature. Yeah. And it was just really nice to open that and see that phrase and be like,
there's a few. It's really interesting because although what we're doing with what we call high-tech aquascaping isn't particularly natural. Yeah. I think the essence of what we're trying to do is connect with nature. And I think Mano, one of his quotes is, creating nature is the ultimate privilege. Yeah. And we are as humans, I think many of us are so disconnected from nature, even though we're creating artifice, in an artificial container, what's inside it is natural, and these are natural processes, and we have a guiding hand on them. And
I can, as you know, I work partly for WEO, who produce this light and sponsored most of the tanks for the project actually. Yeah. We've just used this Wazi one, and our slogan for WEO is re-engaging with nature, because nature is there. It's not
going away.
Not going away. And the whole thing is to get people to reconnect with it, re-establish a relationship with it, because it brings joy, and it brings peace of mind, and it's also normally quite good for nature because you become an ally of nature. Yeah,
I love that.
I think
on that note, I think let's
leave it. We could just sit here and
we could talk for hours. But I've got my younger stepson.
You've got a life to go back to, don't you?
No, you've got a life too.
I'm going to go and sit on my sofa in front of my big 1500 and just.
There you go. That's a life.
Chill out.
That is a life.
So.
Thanks, mate. Enjoyed that chat. Hopefully you enjoyed the chat. You can subscribe to Ty, Biotopia on YouTube, Biotopia Ty on Instagram. Yep. And his forthcoming book is released
hopefully in time for autumn, ready for Christmas this year.
This year, 2023. Yeah. Featuring loads of support from loads of people, which I'll leave a link in the description to. And thank you for watching. Take care. Cheerio. Cheers, mate.
Thank you.
Yeah.